The Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 has made me switch back. Now, for a little bit of context, I started off as a devout Android fan. And for many years, starting with the old school HTCs, I was deep into Android and I loved everything about Android until about 5 years ago when I started using Apple because of content creation, and I made the switch over from my then Galaxy S20 Ultra to the Apple iPhone 12, and then my entire ecosystem changed. I got a MacBook, I got the iPad, fully into the Apple ecosystem. I still have been using the iPhone 15 Pro Max as my daily driver until recently when I picked up the Galaxy Z Fold 7. Before this, I was using another Android phone in conjunction with my iPhone 15 Pro Max, which was the Galaxy S25 Ultra, and though that was an absolutely fantastic phone, it wasn't enough to make me want to switch. But there was something about this phone, the Z Fold 7, that compelled me to finally make that switch back to Android. And it's not so much that I've switched back to Android, it's just that this phone in particular, being a foldable, is what attracted me to want to use it as my primary device. This is my first ever foldable, and I had initially had the impression that foldables weren't that great. They were overpriced and they weren't exactly worth it right now in terms of how far the tech had come to pick one up and use it or try it or, main it as my primary tech device. But using the Z Fold 7 has completely changed my mind because this is an absolutely fantastic phone, and I haven't had so much fun using a smartphone device this much in years now. Now, just so you guys know exactly where I'm coming with this as a primary Apple user, being within the Apple ecosystem, everything works seamlessly for my content creation needs as well as my day-to-day social needs as well. The iPhone 15 Pro Max for the past 2 years has been a fantastic device to use, and until very recently, it was still my primary daily driver, and I love this phone. It's not the fact that I don't like Apple anymore and I'm making the complete switch over to Android. I'm still using my Apple devices. So Apple was working perfectly fine for me. However, it was getting a bit stale, which is why I then started experimenting with the other Android phones that have come out recently, such as the S25 Ultra, which to me was an absolutely fantastic phone, and it looks brilliant, it feels brilliant, it works brilliantly, but it was still just your standard bar phone, your standard Android bar phone, which had all the Android features, perfect, fine, amazing, but it wasn't enough to make me feel like, oh yeah, I completely want to switch over to Android because of this phone. And I don't think it's Android that is compelling me to switch, it's the foldable. It's the design of these phones. These foldable phones and the fact that it is a foldable is what is making me switch to this device in particular rather than jumping ship to Android altogether. And like I said, it's my first foldable, and now that it's been refined to a point where it's actually usable even without opening the phone up. Whereas before, the front screens, the closed screens rather, the cover screen, that's what they're called, was much narrower. They weren't really practical, especially on the Z Fold. It just wasn't, I just didn't like the idea of having such a bulky device, such an expensive bulky device, which I don't think I would have gotten the most out of. And design wise, the Z Fold 7 is an absolute beauty of a phone. The thinness that this has is absolutely unbelievable. Both closed and opened up. I've got this Spigen Aramid Air case that I've got just the back cover on for it because it maintains that slimness whilst providing a little bit of protection to the back and a little bit of extra grip, which is all I want. And I've got a screen protector on the cover screen, and that's more than enough protection that I want for the phone. I really want to maintain that slim profile of the phone whilst I'm using it because it just feels really nice in the hand. Both while it's open, obviously it's impossibly thin while it's open. I say impossibly. It's not like this is the thinnest foldable on the market. It is one of the thinnest foldables on the market, but you've got the new Honor Magic V5, which is probably a little bit thinner than this, and then you've also got phones that are almost as thin as this, like the Oppo Find N5, which I've actually got here. This is my dad's Oppo Find N5, so this isn't even the first foldable that I've handled. I did get to play around with my dad's Oppo Find N5, but they're different devices, and there are slight differences. I'm not going to go into what the differences between this and the Oppo Find N5 are in this video. I might touch on that later on once I've done my full extensive review of the Find N5. But getting back to the Z Fold 7, it is an absolute beautiful phone. Even my mom loved it, and she picked one up herself because she's like, oh, I've always wanted a foldable. And I was like, well, now is the perfect time to get one because they're actually good. The tech has actually caught up to a point now where the design of these phones makes them not a gimmick anymore. They're actually viable, usable devices, in my opinion, compared to the older iterations of these phones. And so, like I said, I wasn't a believer at first, and I did go down to the Samsung Experience store to check it out for myself to see what the hype was all about with these phones. And when I did handle it in the store, I was pretty much convinced that I wanted to pick one up. And then after actually now using it for a couple of weeks now, I've completely switched over my SIM and my WhatsApp. If you're in the UK or any other part of the world, you know how big a deal switching your WhatsApp over permanently to a new phone is. It basically seals the deal that that's now your primary device, because swapping WhatsApp between Android and iPhone is an absolute nightmare. But I managed to do it, and so this is now my primary device. I will still use my iPhone, and I'll get around to that in a little while. It's all good and well that it has a fantastic design, but is it actually nice to use? Well, using this phone comes in two parts. It's basically a two-in-one, because you've got two devices in the sense that you've got one device that you can use just like a bar phone, as in the screen now is wide enough that it's viable to use closed as a bar phone. That's basically how I'm using it 70 to 75% of the time. It's as a bar phone or as a standard phone whilst it's in its closed mode, because that's what my lifestyle dictates. I mean, I've got 3 young kids. I'm not going to be using this phone wide open, especially when I'm with them, because if one of them comes and slaps it out of my hand or something happens like that, then it's going to break. I like not to use it opened up in front of them. I don't really need to use it opened up in front of them, because most of the things that I'm doing whilst I'm with them just requires me to use my phone with one hand or just as a normal smartphone, and that's what it can do. But it's not just the fact that this opens up and then you've got a larger screen on the inside that makes it a two-in-one device. Samsung have done something very clever here, where when you open the phone up, you have an option of either mirroring your closed device, meaning the app arrangement, the widget arrangement is exactly the same and it mirrors how it looks in terms of the screens whilst it's closed, or you can turn the screen mirroring off and actually set it up as a completely independent layout that maybe suits your needs better for using it as an opened up device. Now for me, it's not very different the way I've got things laid out. It is different. I like the look of the way I've got things. It's got all of my widgets that I want to view straight away on the page. It's got the apps and the folders arranged in the way that I find more comfortable to use while it's opened up. And that's what makes it a little bit more special and a little bit more unique to be able to use this phone, because it's something I haven't noticed in the other foldables. Like when I open the Find and 5 up, it's the screen mirroring is on. So it's still got that mirrored screen style layout on it. But I haven't been able to figure out a way to turn that off and do what this can do. So really it's completely changed the way I use my device on a day-to-day basis, because now I've got these two options of using it either closed or open, and the functionality of the device changes based off of how I'm using it. Use it really nicely whilst it's closed, and then I can open it up and I can use it for whatever I want to do, checking my emails or watching YouTube or Netflix or watching Instagram on a slightly bigger screen. I don't know, scrolling through things on a slightly larger screen. So that's a novelty that I now have and I'm able to do. So I can just pop it open and start watching a video whilst it's open, and it makes the user experience a lot better. But obviously you can't talk about using this device opened up without talking about multitasking. And that's something that's actually changed quite a lot in my usage of my smart device, because even with the S25 Ultra, which does have the multitasking features, even with the iPad, which even in its current iOS 18, I think it is, does have multitasking, you know, with the stage manager and all of that, I don't really use them on these devices much, because they're not devices I really need to multitask a lot on. Switching apps is fast enough on those screens. And on the iPad, really, I mean, my use case for the iPad is quite different, so I don't necessarily need to multitask as often. I do sometimes, and it's okay on it, but Samsung have really nailed multitasking on this phone. And it's got the 3 windows that you can tile up onto the screen. You can change the orientation of them, or the arrangement of the screens quite easily. You can swap them around. But one of the really cool and very useful features that this has is you can actually save app combinations. So when you've got multiple screens open like that in multitasking mode. If you swipe up and you kind of tap the app icon at the top, you can add the app pair, and you can either add it to the taskbar, the home screen, or the app search panel. And I've got a couple of them added to the app search panel, combinations that I'd use quite often, like using Notion whilst I'm on Instagram and on YouTube, just so that I can use the three of them at the same time whilst doing maybe some content research, or various other combinations depending on what you're using and how you're using them. You can save these combinations, and as long as you don't close the apps, when you go back, even if you exit that combo, when you go back to it, it will open it up exactly where you left it off. And I think that's such a handy tool, and those little things make such a difference to the user experience of this phone, and it makes the phone so nice to use and so easy to use. It's a little thing that attracted me and actually made me think that, you know what, this is a better device to use as a daily driver in comparison to my iPhone. So it's really made it a lot easier for me to do a lot of the things that I would maybe sometimes need two devices to do. Apart from note taking, which I do like doing with my Apple Pencil on the iPad, it's pretty much replaced my iPad for everything else. Like, if I were to be like, oh, I'm going somewhere, I'll take my iPad along with me so that I can watch stuff on a slightly bigger screen. I no longer need to do that. I no longer need to take my iPhone and my iPad with me everywhere just so that I've got a slightly bigger screen to watch things on, because this pretty much covers it for me. Yes, the aspect ratio isn't perfect. It's a bit more of a square design, so you're not getting like a full screen option for most things. Videos are not adapted now to the aspect ratio of this square screen, squarish screen that you've got on the foldables. So you do get these bars on the top and the bottom, but you do have the option of using it in this flex mode where you can open up the phone halfway and you've got the video showing up on the top half with a control panel at the bottom. And that's such a handy thing, because it means you can just kind of place your phone there and you can watch stuff like that. And you know, the screen size is the same as what it would be on a normal bar phone, and you don't have to worry about bringing a stand with you. Plus you've got control options at the bottom, and you can just lay it down, sit back and watch whatever you want to watch. So that's another handy feature that this phone has that, you know, is sometimes very useful for me, especially if I need to be a little bit more hands-free while I'm dealing with the kids. I've got a 1-month-old at home right now, so if I'm feeding the baby and I want to be watching something, I can just set up the phone and just kind of hold the baby and feed the baby without having to worry about needing to hold the phone or balance the phone somewhere. I mean, once it's open up like this, it'll balance almost anywhere on the sofa's handle and stuff like that. Yes, it's a bit more risky because it might fall off and stuff, but you know, it just as an example, you have those options now of using the phone in this flex mode. And not only that, you can use it like this as like a mini little laptop if you want to take notes and things like that. If you open up the notes app, you'll see that the keyboard appears at the bottom as well. And again, you can kind of type on it as if though you were typing on a miniature laptop, and you'd be able to use the top screen as your kind of viewing screen, and then you've got the keyboard on the bottom screen. It's optimized to be able to be used in these ways. Obviously the other foldables are as well, but I'm just saying in general terms of foldables, not just particularly for the Z Fold 7. But having access to all of these features means that the way I use my smartphone has been impacted in a significant way, and I don't think I'm going to be able to easily go back to using just a single bar phone, because I've gotten now so used to, even in this short period of time, so used to using a foldable phone. Now, on the topic of using it whilst it's open up, it is a very slim phone, like I've said before, and I would highly suggest using it with a case because it does provide you with that little bit of extra grip. But otherwise, using the phone open up is very comfortable, because even though the edges are a tiny bit sharp, it's not the end of the world. I mean, you know, they're still rounded out, and it's not like it's really cutting into my hand. It's extremely light, meaning that even if I am using it opened up, it's not adding a lot of weight, whereas the previous ones were a lot heavier, they were a lot bulkier. I felt like they would weigh me down if I'm using it opened up like an iPad does. And one of the big complaints actually about this phone has been its battery life, and I haven't felt it, because I've been able to get an entire day's use out of this on a single charge, and then I just charge it at night and it charges back up to full again. I pick it up in the morning, disconnect it from the charger, and I'm using it throughout the day, and it's getting through a full day's worth so far on a single charge, and I've not had any problems. And I have been using it quite a lot to do a lot of stuff, from watching things to my emails to playing a lot of Pokemon TCG Pocket on it, my new addiction, both whilst at home and outside. It is still lasting me pretty much an entire day, even though it does have a smaller battery in comparison to say the Oppo Find N5 and the Honor Magic V5, which have significantly larger batteries. There's something about the power efficiency on this which hasn't really bothered me. Maybe it's my personal use case, and other people who are using it a lot more heavily are feeling the effects of that smaller battery. But personally, I haven't. That's what I want to kind of get at. Now, obviously, it's not the perfect phone. I'm not saying that it is all well and perfect, and there are no flaws about this. There are obviously the usual flaws with smartphones that come. You've got that crease, which it's less noticeable than in previous phones, but it is still slightly noticeable under certain lighting conditions and angles. When you're looking at it head on, it's pretty much not there. But I think the more you use it, the more the fold becomes noticeable. It's the trope that I'm getting. So far, it hasn't really bothered me. In my mind, it's a foldable. It's gonna have a crease. It would be very weird if a folding phone didn't have a crease down the middle. But yes, controlling how far that crease goes with the technology of the screen and things like that is important. But I think they've done a pretty good job of it. I would have liked the screen to have a little bit more of an anti-reflective coat, the inner screen, because the Oppo Find N5 and the Honor Magic V5 that I played around with, they do have a slightly more matte inner screen, which doesn't really affect the screen itself or the quality itself, but it does help with those reflections. Right now my room has lots of lights around it, so if I am kind of moving around, there are quite a lot of reflections, and I would have liked to see that gets dulled down a little bit with that anti-reflective screen, like it has on the actually has on the outer screen, which seems like it has that anti-reflective coating on it, which makes it quite nice to use actually, even in harsh lighting conditions or when you're outside. And of course, not every single app is completely optimized for it. For example, like I said, I play Pokemon TCG Pocket and it's not optimized to be used with a fold phone. So if I'm using it whilst it's closed, which is how I would traditionally play the game, but I wanted to open it up and play it on a fuller screen, it doesn't automatically resize. You do have to use something like the Multistar app from Samsung's Home Lock to make it work a little bit more better with that. And that's understandable because foldables are not capitalizing the market in terms of device share, so not all apps are going to be optimized for use with a foldable like this, but most of them are, and you can force optimize them using something like Multistar, especially on the Galaxy Z Fold 7. So it's not the end of the day. I haven't found a massive struggle of using apps or finding compatibility for apps. I mean, it's Android, it's got almost everything you need on it, and APKs and stuff still exist for now, and I've been able to customize it the way I want to, and that's something else. It's the customizability on this. I missed that so much. The one thing that I absolutely couldn't stand, or that I really struggled with rather, with the iPhones, was the lack of customizability, and it's come a long way since. I will give credit where credit is due. iPhones have come a long way since in terms of customizability, but it's just not there on the same level as Android. Android is better for customizability. You can make your phone exactly how you want it, from apps to themes to the design to the font to everything. You can make it look as unique as you want, whereas iPhones still have a limitation. Even if you want to change your icon, there's a weird way you have to go around it. I just haven't had the brain power to sit down and fully customize my iPhone in the way some people have been able to. And so maybe I don't know, maybe I'm missing out, but I just find that the Android customizability is a lot better, especially with the Good Lock app on Samsung. That increases tenfold, and the way you can really make this phone feel easier to use and optimize it to be the way you want it to be definitely makes a difference in that user experience. And last but not least, I do want to touch on the camera on this thing, because I am a content creator, and of course the camera is all important. And one of the reasons I'm actually picking up the iPhone 17 and not really letting go of the iPhone 15 is I just feel there are certain things that the iPhone is better for, and camera is one of them. And when I do get my 17 Pro very soon now, it will have the upgraded camera system with the video is what I care about more. So it's going to have not just the ProRes log, but the ProRes RAW recording capabilities now. You've got the front camera with open gate capabilities. You've got all these new fancy camera features which really attract me, and obviously you don't have as extensive of a camera system on the Android as that just yet, even though the Z Fold 7 does have Samsung log, which it's another thing that attracted me. I really wanted to make sure that this had Samsung log, just like the S25 Ultra did, because it's such a handy feature to have as a content creator. But in general camera use, I have enjoyed using this phone a lot. Just because of the form factor, whilst it's closed, using this phone and using the camera on this phone has been very comfortable. Taking photos with this has also shown me that the camera on this is really good. Like, I mean, I'm not done a complete direct comparison between these two, and nor have I done a complete direct comparison between this and the S25 Ultra, which I should do because my wife still has her one, even though I traded mine in. She's still got hers, so maybe I can do a direct comparison and bring that to you guys later on. But from memory and from using the S25 Ultra versus this, I actually have found that I'm enjoying using the camera on the Z Fold 7 a lot more, and the pictures are coming out a little nicer. I don't know whether that's in my head, whether that's because of the aspect ratio that I'm viewing them on, or what it is, but I have enjoyed the camera and have liked using the camera on this a lot. It's a very good camera system, and it's got the same 200 megapixel camera sensor as the S25 Ultra does, but for some reason it's a little bit better optimized on this. I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it's not, maybe I'm just imagining things. If I am, just let me know if that's the case, say that I'm going cuckoo. But the camera on this is really good. And for content creation, one of the biggest bonuses of this phone is that selfie mode. So if I hit that selfie mode on the camera screen and I open the screen up, what I can do is I can record myself or take photos of myself with the back camera whilst viewing it on that cover screen. And that makes a massive difference, especially if you're a content creator who films yourself solo a lot. Being able to frame yourself whilst getting the maximum quality out of your phone by using that back camera, which has the better quality, obviously is better than the selfie camera, is a massive bonus. It's an extremely handy feature to have for content creation. And I think phones like this and the Z Flip are really becoming great tools for content creators. And obviously you've got access to that Samsung log, which means that you've got access to high quality video with better dynamic range, better flexibility in editing. So now you've got access to those slightly more professional features. And it's not perfect, but it's definitely better than it was once upon a time on Android. And you can no longer say that you want to get iPhone just because of its camera. Yes, the iPhone camera system and the stuff that they're doing with ProRes RAW and everything like that, and the image stacking with the multiple 48 megapixel cameras and all of that kind of stuff is great, and the computational photography is fantastic. This really doesn't fall that far behind, especially if you're doing stuff for social media. The everyday person is not going to film in ProRes RAW. The everyday person is not going to film in log. But if you're a content creator and you do want to explore with those, then the Samsung definitely still has that. So all in all, is this just a phase that I'm going through? Am I just going to end up switching back when I do get the 17 Pro? Or am I going to be able to stick to this? Only time will tell. But so far, I really haven't enjoyed using a smartphone as much as I have using the Z Fold 7 in a very, very long time. Not since I think I used the HTC One M7 back however many years ago that was. That phone, I absolutely loved that phone. I used the hell out of that phone. It was sleek, it was nice to use at the time, it was powerful, the camera system was pretty good. I mean, you know, it was different and I enjoyed it. For a while now, phones have become quite, even with the S25 Ultra, the differences between the S25 Ultra and the S24 Ultra were very minimal from the inside. I really liked the squarish design of the S25 Ultra, which is why I loved using it and which is why I got it. But it was still just felt like your normal standard smartphone. Like using that and using something like the CMF Phone 1 wasn't very different in terms of like the internal use cases. I mean, I feel like phone tech has gotten a little bit stale and boring, but when you try something like a foldable or a flip phone, which may sound or seem gimmicky at the beginning, when you start using something like this, I mean, they've really done a great job with the Z Fold 7, and I really am interested in seeing how good other phones like this, other foldables like this, like the Oppo Find N5, which I've got here. I've got the Z Fold 7 here and the Oppo Find N5 here. such as the Oppo Find N5 or the Honor Magic V5, which I do want to try out and play around with. I do want to see how they stack up to something like the Z Fold 7. Like, is it as good? Is the experience just as good? Is it just because it's Samsung that it's this good? Are Samsung just really that good at marketing their stuff? Or are there other phones out there that are just as great? You know, it'll be interesting to see that, but definitely, whether it's this or whether it's one of the other foldables, I think the experience of using these things, it's definitely different to just using your standard bar phone, which you might or might not agree, but that's the whole point. Everybody has their opinions. That's the whole point of it. That's my opinion on it. I have thoroughly enjoyed using the Z Fold 7, and I'm going to continue thoroughly enjoy using this thing as my new daily driver, but I will still be keeping my iPhone and Apple ecosystem going because it has its own uses. I do still enjoy using the Apple ecosystem. The ease of use for them is great, and I do still have a use case for it. So I'm going to be rocking both of these guys for a while. Well, this will get swapped in for the 17 Pro, but who knows? I mean, the idea is that this remains my primary device for the foreseeable future, with the iPhone being the complementary device that I use for things like content creation and just playing around with and all the kind of camera features that comes with. But my everyday use device for media, entertainment, personal use, some types of productivity come from using the Z Fold 7, both closed and opened up. And with that, I'm gonna leave it here, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it gave you a good idea of what my experience was like using the Z Fold 7, and kind of helps you decide whether you think that the Z Fold 7 is the phone for you. Let me know in the comments below what you think, if you disagree or agree with anything particular that I've said, or if there's anything I've missed that you think that I should have touched on, and maybe you want to know a little bit more about, then ask away in the comments below. And if you did enjoy the video, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, do all the bits. And until next time, this is Kai24 signing out.